The jungle echoed with thunderous roars, and a small boy stood frozen in the middle of it all. His bright yellow shirt shone like sunlight against the dark shadows. A massive gorilla pounded its chest, its rage shaking the ground. Spectators screamed, but the boy didn't move, not even a step. His tiny fists lifted, mimicking the beast before him. It was a moment that seemed to defy nature itself. Guards rushed forward, hearts pounding, afraid of what would happen next. The air turned thick with tension, silence before a storm. Everyone expected tragedy, but destiny had other plans. The gorilla slowed, its roar fading into a low rumble, its eyes locked with the boy's. Not with anger, but with curiosity. Something shifted. A strange calm replaced chaos. In those few seconds, a miracle unfolded before everyone's eyes. The crowd gasped, unable to believe what they were seeing. The boy, barely 5, took a small step forward. The gorilla bowed its head, like meeting an equal. Tears filled the eyes of those who watched this impossible scene. It wasn't fear that ruled that moment. It was connection, and what happened next, no one on earth could ever forget. It was supposed to be an ordinary family day out. Children laughed, parents snapped pictures, and the sun was warm. Among them, a little boy in a yellow shirt wandered too.
"Close," his mother's voice called out. But it was
already too late. A gate had been left slightly ajar near the gorilla enclosure. The boy's tiny feet carried him straight into danger. Visitors screamed as they saw what was about to unfold. On the other side, the gorillas noticed him instantly. Their leader, a giant silverback, began to move. His powerful chest thumped like thunder in the air. The ground trembled under his massive steps. The boy froze,
eyes wide, unaware of the threat. Guards ran toward the cage,
shouting for backup. Every heartbeat in the crowd felt like a lifetime. Cameras clicked, but no one could help. It was man versus nature. Innocence versus instinct. The boy stood there, fists up, as if ready to defend himself. The silverback's roar shook the air around him. Even the birds stopped singing. The world went silent. A tragedy seemed inevitable until fate intervened. Because what came next would silence the world. It wasn't an attack. It was something else entirely. A moment that would change the meaning of fear forever. The crowd held its breath as destiny took.
Overdot, the story of that moment would soon
travel across the globe. The silverback stopped just inches from the child. His nostrils flared, his muscles tense, ready for anything. But then something strange happened. The great beast didn't strike. Instead, he tilted his head, studying the boy's face. The boy's small fists were still raised, trembling. It was courage born from innocence, not defiance. The gorilla's roar softened into a deep rumble. The crowd couldn't understand what was happening. Guards froze, afraid to make a move. Even the other gorillas stayed back. Confused, it was as if time itself had stopped. Man and beast stared into each other's souls. The boy blinked and took a small step forward. Gasps filled the air.
Mothers clutched their children, but the gorilla didn't move. He just watched. Something
deep within his eyes began to change. The fury faded, replaced by calm recognition. Maybe he saw something familiar in that
child, a spark of innocence he had once known. The world would later call it a miracle. For that moment,
the line between fear and friendship blurred, and the boy's next action would change everything. The jungle's mightiest creature bowed its head slightly as if acknowledging a kindred
spirit in human form. No one dared to speak. Only the wind moved softly. The gorilla leaned closer,
his breath brushing the boy's face. The child didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled, a pure, fearless smile that melted the beast's anger. It was a language beyond words, heart to heart. The crowd's terror turned into awe. Parents stopped crying. Guards lowered their weapons. What they were witnessing defied everything they knew. The gorilla slowly reached out a massive hand. Everyone gasped, but the boy didn't move away. He lifted his tiny palm and pressed it against the gorilla's, a touch that silenced the whole world. It was power meeting purity, and purity winning. The gorilla's eyes softened, almost human-like. He made a low something like a lullaby. The boy giggled. It was the sound of peace. In that instant, the divide between species disappeared. The jungle's king had found a friend. Cameras clicked again, but this time to capture history. It was a moment no one would ever forget. The child had done what no adult could, tame with love. The gorilla turned his head toward the crowd calmly. He wasn't angry anymore. He was guarding the boy. The zoo fell into reverent silence. Nature had spoken. A silent promise had been made between them both. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Some covered their mouths.
Others whispered prayers. The boy's mother stood frozen,
Tears streaming down her face. Her baby was standing beside a wild beast, unharmed. Every instinct told her to scream, to run, but she didn't. She saw something in that moment no one else could. It wasn't danger. It was understanding. Even the guards hesitated to break the bond. One zookeeper whispered, "Don't move. Let them be." The gorilla gently tapped the boy's shoulder. It was almost playful.
as if saying hello. The boy laughed, a sound pure as light. The gorilla's lips twitched into what
Looked like a smile. Tears rolled down faces across the crowd. No one had ever seen such gentleness in raw
power. The gorilla looked at the boy again.
deeply, then turned toward his group and signaled something. The other gorillas, once tense, relaxed and backed away. The crowd erupted in disbelief. The leader had calmed them all. The zookeepers whispered,
"He's protecting the child." It was no longer a
standoff. It was a friendship. The gorilla's mighty hand shielded the boy from the sun. That image would later go viral around the world. The
story was no longer about fear, and it was about
faith, and every tear that fell carried the same question. Oh, why him? The boy reached out again, giggling softly. His tiny hand touched the gorilla's chest right over his heart. The giant creature closed his eyes for a moment, as if feeling something sacred awaken within him. People watching began to cry openly. This wasn't just an encounter. It was a revelation. The gorilla slowly knelt, lowering himself to the child's level. His breath was steady, his eyes filled with peace. The boy began to hum, a soft, innocent tune, and the gorilla
listened. For a wild animal, that was unthinkable, but he stayed still.
entranced by the child's voice. Even the other gorillas watched in silence. Something divine lingered in that space between them, a connection unbroken by fear, untouched by reason. The boy gently placed his head against the gorilla's arm. The beast didn't move, only sighed softly. It was as if he remembered the child within himself. Love had replaced instinct, and calm conquered chaos. The world would replay this moment 1,000,000 times. A child's courage, a creature's compassion, and a miracle in motion. When the zookeepers finally stepped in, the gorilla didn't resist. He simply stood up, watching as the boy was carried away, and in his eyes shone something eternal. Friendship,
Pure and true. The boy turned his head one last time. From his mother's trembling arms,
he looked back. Behind the glass, the gorilla stood still, watching. Their eyes met again, and time seemed to freeze. It was as if they both understood something wordless. The boy waved his little hand through the air, and to everyone's astonishment, the gorilla waved back. The crowd gasped, their hearts melting at the sight. The keeper whispered, "He knows it's goodbye." It wasn't fear anymore, it was farewell. Tears glistened in the sunlight as the boy smiled. The gorilla lowered his head,
as if in respect. The moment felt sacred, too pure to disturb. Reporters captured every second.
but no words could explain it. It wasn't about man or beast anymore. It was about two souls who had met by fate. The boy's mother hugged him tightly, whispering prayers of thanks. The gorilla turned away slowly, vanishing into the shade, his massive form fading behind the rocks. But his silence said more than words ever could. Even the wind seemed to whisper,
"Goodbye, little one." The connection had ended, yet somehow
it hadn't, because in that moment, hearts had changed forever. The boy had touched something ancient, and it had touched him back, and the world would never look at gorillas the same way again. Within hours, the footage spread like wildfire. Millions of people around the globe watched in awe. News anchors called it the gentle giant's miracle. Experts debated, was it instinct or emotion? But everyone who saw it felt the same truth. Something divine had taken place in that zoo. Comments flooded in from every country and creed. Some said it was proof of humanity in nature. Others said it was proof of innocence in humanity. The boy's smile became a symbol of hope, and the gorilla, a guardian of compassion. The video reached over 100
million views. Even scientists admitted they were
stunned. They replayed the clip frame by frame, trying to find a logical reason for peace in the face of fear. But some things defy logic, and this was one of them. The world needed that reminder that love still exists. A zoo worker said he wasn't protecting territory, he was protecting trust. People sent gifts, letters, and prayers from all over. The boy's family received calls from media giants, but they only said one thing: we just thank God. It became more than a story. It became a message, a living reminder that sometimes miracles walk on four legs, and sometimes they look right into your eyes. Days after the event, the zookeepers noticed something new. The gorilla wasn't the same as before. He was calmer,
gentler, almost thoughtful. He spent more time near the glass, watching children play. Sometimes
he would tap softly when he saw a yellow shirt, as if waiting for that boy to return. He no longer fought for dominance with others. He led with peace. Quiet, strong, steady. The younger gorillas began to follow his example. It was as though kindness had taken root in his heart. The keepers started calling him Guardian. He would sit under the same tree every afternoon, looking toward the visitors' area, as if remembering. There was something soulful in his eyes now. When zookeepers cleaned the glass, he'd stay close, watching patiently, never showing aggression. Some visitors claimed he smiled when kids waved. It wasn't fantasy. It was transformation. The boy's presence had awakened something long asleep. Even the zoo director said, "He's different now, more human than ever." Animals have instincts, yes, but they also have souls, and this gorilla had found his through love. His roar was now a whisper of memory, not of rage. And that whisper lived on, echoing softly through the jungle of his heart. Years passed, but the boy never forgot that day. Even as he grew older, the image stayed bright in his mind. He remembered the heartbeat he felt beneath the gorilla's chest. He remembered the warmth of that giant's hand. He told the story again and again, not for fame, but to share what kindness truly means. Teachers called him brave. He said, "I was just not scared." But deep down, he knew it was something more. He would draw pictures of the gorilla in his notebooks. In every sketch, the gorilla smiled. On his 12th birthday,
He visited the zoo again, the same enclosure.
the same air, the same silence. He stood before the glass, heart racing. The gorilla, older now, turned and saw him. For a moment, the years disappeared. Recognition flashed in both their eyes. The boy pressed his palm against the glass, and unbelievably, the gorilla did the same. It was their silent reunion, through time and distance, no words, no sounds, just a bond unbroken. The keepers said, "He never does that for anyone else." It was proof that love never fades. It remembers, even across species, even across years. The boy smiled, whispering softly, "Hi again, friend." And the gorilla blinked, a gentle hello in return. When the world expects violence, kindness can rewrite destiny. A small act of trust can silence the loudest roar. And sometimes the purest courage comes from the smallest soul. That day proved something timeless. Love is the greatest strength of all. Even when danger looms, compassion can turn it into a miracle, because no matter how different we are, hearts still understand one language: love, love,